Hi, my name is Madison Parrott, and I am currently doing a research paper on the psychological aspect of forensic linguistics on deception. I basically wanted to do something that had to do with the career that I'm planning on going into, which is forensic psychiatry, psychology, and I really wanted to make sure that this research project spoke a lot about the lack of lie detecting that we have in the criminal justice um, field. Basically, I think it's really important that the psychology of deception and the linguistics of deception are paid attention to in the judicial branch. I feel like they're very underappreciated, and that's changing. But I think it's really important to start having research projects that kind of aim at those specific topics. Basically, my project is it focuses a lot on the deception process, so lying. Um, and there have been multiple studies on deception. However, there have been very few studies of linguistics that can identify deception within, um, let's say, an interrogation room or something like that. I think it's really important. Um, we don't really have a good way to identify lying. Even a lie detector can be fooled anymore. So, the biggest thing for me that I think the judicial system needs is the ability to detect lying, and I think the best way to do that is through linguistics. Now, linguistics is the study of language. So, through um, pronoun usage, verb usage, prepositions, filler words, all of those things are the things that linguistics looks at and identifies in order to find deception within someone's spoken or written word. I believe that specific, so someone who is in their natural psychological state, who is pressured to basically possibly save themselves, have a choice to either lie or tell the truth. The focus of this study is to pay attention to archived court cases that the specific individual in those cases were facing a minimum of 2 years jail time in their conviction. So that way it shows what a true person is feeling on why they decide to lie in order to basically save themselves or their family from that jail time or embarrassment or whatever it is. The focus is not to know why, but to identify how. We do know that there is a specific type of programming called the LIWC, or the LIWC, which is the linguistic inquiry and word count that helps us narrow down these deceptions. Basically, the program looks and counts for words in psychologically relevant categories across text fields that decipher the deception. In my paper, I've gone over multiple different categories that the LIWC looks at in order to identify deception. We know that there are multiple different categories that the LIWC looks at. One of these categories is the use of pronoun usage, which basically is a lot of first person singular pronoun usage can oftentimes tell if someone is lying. The interesting thing about it is that someone who's telling a story that may not possibly be about them or something that they did and they don't want to associate themselves with it will often use disassociating pronoun usage. So basically, they won't use I, my, me. All of those they'll avoid. And so, in order to disassociate them from the crime that they committed. Function words are often, such as verb tense and things like that, are also another category that the LIWC uses. So I would say when it comes to past tense, present tense, it has been known that past tense is used as a higher rate when discussing disclosed events, while present tense is used in a higher rate when retelling undisclosed events. So basically, this means that a lot of people who have talked about the event to someone else is more likely to talk about it in a past tense, the ed tense of a verb, whereas someone who hasn't talked about anything, like a specific event in their past, who hasn't talked about it before, they'll often still talk about it in a present tense verb usage. Another thing to be noted about verb or pronoun usage, back to the pronoun usage, is the word we. So we can often be unreliable in identifying who was involved. In a rare case, there is something known as dissociative identity disorder, or formerly known as multiple personality disorder. So basically, this is a person who believes that they have multiple personalities, oftentimes subconsciously. So someone who is telling a story and says we may not have been with multiple people, but may have just been with a dissociative personality. And this doesn't have to be the crazy split kind of movie scenario. This is more about, there are people who dissociate one personality, and that anger from a trauma could be that personality that they break into. And it's only just one, and it's rare occasions, but there are cases where someone will subconsciously say we, and they're only meaning themselves. Another one would be content words. So when someone is experiencing emotional pain, etc., they're basically going to use words, negative words that describe that trauma. Or even if they're not describing the trauma, they're still feeling it, that physical or emotional pain, they'll still use those negative words. So basically what I plan on doing with my research project is going and getting archival court case studies, like I said, with the 2-year jail time minimum, and running their interviews, interrogations, pleas, etc. through the Luke in order to find out if deception is identified. Now, one of the problems with this research project, it is very difficult unless the individual states that they did lie in their plea or interrogation to prove that they lied, unless there's undeniable proof through the court case that convicted them. So we're going to stay away from the word prove completely, and basically we're going to go off of a consistent basis. So is the Luke able to consistently identify lying for a criminal that is facing jail time of less than or above than 2 years? Through that, there really is no signatures or anything like that. You don't have to ask permission through this research paper. I can basically go in, and what it's called is the PACER, and excuse me. The PACER is a public access to court electronic records online base. So in order for me to find court cases across the country of different demographic groups, I can use this website and find these court cases that fit my standards. So after going through all these, the biggest problem is going to be finding whether or not the consistent rate of the deception identification through Luke is actually a lie or truth. So that will be one of the most difficult things that I'm going to need to go over. But that's my research project, and I'm really, really excited about it. I've always wanted to be a forensic psychiatrist, and I just really feel like this is the right path for me to take, and I feel like it's going to really help the judicial system, even in a small step, to better understand deception. I just wanted to talk about my proposed results. The proposed results that I believe is that I do think that the Luke, through the linguistics identification, will be able to consistently, and my basis of consistent is a 75% consistent rate that will identify deception or truth. We are going to take basically 100 deception cases and 100 truth cases and run them through the Luke, and hopefully there will be 75% of each of those will be identified through the Luke. So that's my hypothesis. I believe that 75% consistent rate will be identified through the Luke, and we will be able to better understand lying through text, interrogation, pleas, etc.